Welcome back to the program, everyone. It is John Pollock here alongside Robin Black, and we are looking ahead to the TUF finale. It is coming up Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1 in the U.S., TSN up here in Canada. It will be headlined by a welterweight bout as Jake Ellenberger is going to be meeting the man on the line. He is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who joins us from Las Vegas. Stephen, how are you, and how is Las Vegas?
Oh, man, feeling good, and Las Vegas is buzzing, man, like always.
This has got to be pretty cool for you because you're in the midst of your own fight week, but so much going around with International Fight Week. Is it a little, can you almost step back and almost be a fan of everything that's going on this week? All of the fighters congregating in Las Vegas, and it's going to be a gigantic weekend for the UFC.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be huge, man. I mean, you also have, the big fight the day before mine, which is UFC 189, and, you got McGregor fighting, you got Mendez fighting, you got a bunch of great fighters here. Exciting weekend here in Vegas, and I'm glad to be a part, man.
Hey, Stephen, you've got a big fight with Ellenberger on Sunday night that you're focused on, mentally getting ready for. It's a little different to be able to go on a Saturday night and watch fights. Will you go do that and put yourself in that arena and drink that in? And if so, would that help you mentally, or will you avoid it?
Probably avoid it, because, this is my first main event. I want to be focused on it. So, and of course, Saturday is our weigh-ins. So after weigh-ins, I'm just getting fuel back in, ready for my fight, and getting focused for Sunday.
Cool.
Now, you mentioned this being your first main event, and unfortunately, back in February, I know you were anticipating headlining your first show with Brandon Thatch, and you had to pull out of that fight due to a rib injury. So with everything that went on in the lead-up here with Jose Aldo, I mean, can you kind of sympathize here of, a big main event and, unfortunately, a rib injury? I mean, that's something for a fighter that goes into so many different facets, whether it be your hard training, cutting weight. I mean, it's just a debilitating injury.
Oh, it is, man. I was supposed to fight Brandon Thatch on Valentine's Day, and, of course, I was up in New York doing some training. Wasn't even doing anything crazy. It was like a freak accident. I ended up tearing the cartilage in my ribs and wasn't able to fight. So I was out for a few months, and so it's almost been a year since I fought. I mean, it's kind of frustrating from time to time, and, but accidents happen, and you just gotta stay focused and move on to the next fight.
And the next fight is Ellenberger this weekend. And when you're looking at this matchup, for me, from my perspective, it feels like a great one for you. Ellenberger is dangerous, but he's a forward-backward guy, and you're a circular movement, flowing in and out kind of guy. I mean, is this one all about range and all about just staying off his direct line?
Oh, definitely. I want to use my movement, my karate background to keep him at the end of my punches, keep him at the end of my kicks, and try and pick him apart. I mean, he's got heavy hands, so he loves to throw that right hand. Got to stay away from it, but keep him away with my sidekick, and like I said, just keep him at the end of my punches.
I did a breakdown on you when you fought Chris Clements, and there was a lot of beautiful stuff that happened in that fight, like there always is in yours. But one thing I was noticing, and this is a few years ago already, is that your movement leads to that blitz style, straight blast in from your point karate background, and then a quick exit out of range. But you're re-entering in combinations of entries now. Is that a big part of your game? Come in, land, exit, re-land?
Oh, definitely. That's pretty cool how you broke that down. But, that's exactly what I want to try and do. I want to try and get Ellenberger to try and swing for the fences, try and knock my head off. That way I can angle off and counter off of his strikes. Because when people are throwing punches, they're always open somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it's my job to go out there and find that.
Has that been an evolutionary process for you, Stephen, in terms of finding that formula and being able to implement it? Like, I'm sure this has always existed in your head, but the actual implementation of it, has that been a bridge you feel that you've been able to cross over the last number of fights?
Oh, definitely. That's one thing that we really focused on, and it's a little different from when I was fighting kickboxing. So I had to modify my style just a little bit for MMA, for those wrestlers, for those jiu-jitsu guys, so that way I don't run into any takedowns, getting taken down. Of course, I'm constantly working on my wrestling, constantly working on my jiu-jitsu, so it's getting better every day. So wherever the fight goes, I want to feel comfortable.
When you're friends with Chris Weidman, I know you've worked with him and Rory and a lot of top guys. When Chris was working on figuring out Lyoto Machida, did you help with that process? And now that Chris really did, I feel like everybody is able to anticipate some of Lyoto's movements. How do you make sure that nobody's able to do that to you over time?
Well, my style is a little bit different than Lyoto. He stands a little bit more square, where I'm a little bit more sideways.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting more and more people who are fighting like that. I mean, you got Conor McGregor, you got Gunnar Nelson, you got Justin Scoggins, guys who come up in that karate background who are, familiar with it.
Crookshank.
So that's one thing that I got to keep in mind. You know what I mean? That they can hire these guys to simulate me, but I just got to keep evolving.
And when you see Conor McGregor use that sort of combination of hook kick and side kick and stuff, people are going to start researching him and analyzing him, and there'll be some carryover to your background too. But it is fascinating how that game, evolves, improves, evolves. People study it, and I feel like you were an important ingredient to helping Machida be figured out.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. I was actually hired by Chris Weidman, who's a good buddy of mine, to come up for that camp. Actually, had to do a lot of study. Of course, my background is stand up, so that's something I'm familiar with, and trained with a lot of other fighters in different styles. So I was able to simulate him and figure it out.
Are you spending most of your time still with Sarah Longo? Will that be a portion of your camp for this particular fight? How much time did you spend there in New York?
Actually, I spent a lot of time in New York. I actually helped Chris with his camp for Vitor, and I went back up for several weeks for my camp as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be a new and part of my camp for my previous fights and my future fights.
And what does it say to you, Stephen, just in terms of an endorsement from the company that here you are being placed in this main event? It's a huge weekend for the organization, and seeing you in that role, that we are going to put Stephen Thompson in the main event. I mean, it's got to be pretty rewarding for you that they view you in that kind of circumstance.
Oh man, I think it's great. I think the UFC and the fans are recognizing me as to step up to that next level of competition, and to be honest with you, I think I'm ready for it.
I think you are too. And as an analyst, I find you to be a huge, important part of people figuring out the growth of the next stage. Conor McGregor falls in, like you mentioned, Gunnar Nelson does too. At some point, you're going to have to face off with Gunnar Nelson. That's going to be pretty cool for us to watch.
Oh, yeah. Super excited, man. He's a nice guy, but even better martial artist,
Last thing before we let you go, Stephen, the night prior in your weight division, Robbie, Lawler, Rory, MacDonald, I know you've trained extensively with Rory in the past. Who do you like in that fight? It seems like it's a pick'em fight for a lot of people. Very entertaining rematch that we've got on Saturday night for the championship.
Oh, I agree. I think MacDonald's got it. I don't think his head was in the fight the last time they met. I think he's more focused. He's obviously gotten better. And he's just so driven, man. And I think he's got the tools to take Lawler down.
Well, Stephen, we wish you all the best going into Sunday night. Once again, it is Stephen Thompson, Jake Ellenberger, 5-round welterweight main event, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. You can check it out on Fox Sports 1 up here in Canada. It will be on TSN. Thank you very much for the time, Stephen. All the best on Sunday night.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Have fun in there, man.